Good evening. Please be advised that on Monday, January 25th, 2021 at 5 p.m. there will be a committee of the whole meeting held through remote participation. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order, imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Medford School Committee will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with the right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the City of Medford website at www.medfordma.org. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen or watch the meeting may do so by accessing the meeting link contained herein. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the City of Medford or Medford Community Media websites an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. The meeting can be viewed through Medford Community Media on Comcast Channel 22 and Verizon Channel 43 at 5 p.m. Since the meeting will be held remotely, participants can log in or call in by using the following link or call-in number, 1-929-205-6099. Please enter meeting ID 987-5132-0021 when prompted. Additionally, questions or comments can be submitted during the meeting by emailing medfordsc@medford.k12.ma.us. Those submitting must include the following information: your first and last name, your Medford Street address, your question or comment. The agenda will be as follows: a review of the goals and performance evaluation of Superintendent Maurice Edouard Vincent for school year 2019 to 2020, assigned by Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Maurice Edouard Vincent. I know we were provided by email the superintendent goals fiscal year 19 and 20, and also the self-evaluation for school year 2019-2020. So,
Mayor, I think we lost Member Rousseau. He said he lost internet and is rebooting right now. Just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Say that one more time, Member Graham.
We lost Paul. His internet went out and he's rebooting, so he'll be back shortly.
Okay, we'll wait for him. If we could take the roll, Member McLaughlin.
Yes, thank you. Member Graham.
Here.
Member Kretz.
Here.
Member McLaughlin here. Member Moscone.
Here.
Member Rousseau. Wait a second. Mayor.
Here. You're just waiting for Paul, Member McLaughlin.
I think we can start without him and you can just mark him when he comes in late,
Okay.
please.
So 6 present, 1 waiting.
Sounds great. Dr. Edouard Vincent, do you want to give an overview and then we'll take questions?
Yes, I will. So good evening, members of the school committee. This evening, I am going to just be giving a quick overview of my goals from school year 2019-2020. My key goals for that time under district improvement, my first goal was the district strategic plan, synthesizing district priority goals to develop targeted multi-year strategic plan to guide all our work, our partnerships, etc., with a laser-like focus on instruction. Our next district improvement goal was developing a district-wide focus on instruction, working with principals and other district leaders to establish a common language about instruction as a foundation for their future work to improve instruction. Our first student learning goal for school year 1920, the student learning goal was elementary mathematics, improving elementary achievement outcomes in mathematics by deepening teacher and principal knowledge of mathematics. And one of the ways that that work took place was through rounds in collaboration with Lesley University. The professional practice goal for school year 1920 was the programming around the NISSP induction program, the new superintendent induction program, which is endorsed by DESE. The professional practice goal was to complete the district strategic plan, attending sessions and completing assignments that were in alignment with the NISSP guidelines, which are in accordance with the state. So those were the goals that were presented on November 18th, 2000 and at the 2019 school committee meeting. Based on those goals, I submitted to you a self-evaluation in regards to the work that I completed in regards to those goals. In that document that you received, I did put the hyperlink to refer back to the superintendent's goals. But in addition to that, I am going to read some of the narrative that I submitted to you. So this evaluation is based from July 2019 through June 2020. Please refer to the goals that I just gave a quick overview that were established in November of 2019. Please note that due to COVID-19, the pandemic, on Friday, March 13th, 2020, the Medford Public Schools closed and no longer offered in-person instruction for the remainder of the school year. This unexpected closure required all schools to develop an alternative instructional method, which no one was prepared for. The pandemic did in fact shift the way Medford Public Schools functioned, how teachers taught, and how students learned. One of our first priorities was to redeploy all Chromebooks and get them into the hands of our students so that they could receive instruction. As a district, we hosted multiple Chromebook distribution days to get a device into the hands of our students. In addition, we found creative ways to get additional instructional supplies to our students in an effort to strengthen the connection between teachers and students. At the onset of the pandemic, the Medford Public Schools created the following documents to address temporary closure. We created the extended MPS closure, K-5. We also created the extended MPS closure, grades 6 to 12. The above documents were created because the guidance we received from MADESE dictated that teachers should not teach any new content because of uneven distribution of resources across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. In fact, the guidance stressed that all instruction should be enrichment only. Therefore, preliminary feedback about the extended closure documents commented on a lack of rigor. However, by the last week of March, collaborative work between the school and the association leadership began on our distance learning plan. This first plan was presented in early April to the school committee. Distance Learning Plan 1.0 was the first version. By mid-May, Distance Learning Plan 2.0 was the final document that carried us until the end of the year. I also submitted a document detailing the chronology of events. In summary, school year 2019-2020 will be recorded by historians as the year of the pandemic, which demanded incredible flexibility on the part of all educational leaders. Life as we knew it would change as everyone's priorities shifted toward the safety and health of all. So under district improvement goals, the district strategic plan was presented to the school committee. And at that time, it was accepted as a draft plan with the intent of continuing to work on the strategic plan to present a final plan. And so I did include the hyperlinks there to that document. Under student learning goal, our elementary math program, I talked about the superintendent has made a concerted effort to address elementary achievement in mathematics. And during year 2, she's expanded the learning walks to include the entire district. She continues to partner with Lesley University and engages them in math learning walks. She is working closely with the math director, and she has encouraged active engagement of the elementary math coaches. The math learning walks scaled up to include grades K through 12 district-wide, including the Curtis Tuff School. The walks expanded to include all administrators and school committee members to join and be part of the professional learning community that was establishing. There were hyperlinks in the schedule presented as well regarding the learning walk schedules and regarding the learning walk dates that had taken place during the 2019-2020 school year. According to the professional practice goal, the new superintendent induction program, I successfully completed year 2. I attended all of our sessions, both those that were in person until the pandemic and now continued for the remainder of that year virtually once the pandemic hit. Dr. Carla Bear has come before the school committee and has provided leadership, coaching, and support. The draft district strategic plan, again, was presented during year 2 of the NISSA plan, and it was presented to the school committee during the 2019-2020 school year. Under the standards set forth under instructional leadership, Standard 1, evidence of practice. Standard 1 talks about the educational leader promotes the learning and growth of all students and success of all staff by cultivating a shared vision that makes powerful teaching and learning the central focus of schooling. The following supports as evidence of practice: school committee documentation for school year 2019-2020, Medford Public Schools blog and websites, math learning walks in collaboration with Lesley University, science learning walks, which took place as well, K-12, MPS monthly administrative meetings, the work of CCSR, support of co-teaching and EL initiatives, adoption of illustrative math, and our new science curriculum, FOSS, being fully implemented. Please note that in addition to the math learning walks being scaled from elementary K-5 to include K through 12. The science learning walks did take place for K-12 as well with Mr. Rocco Sierri as the work was being scaled up. Additionally, we had the intention of scaling up to the humanities learning walks K-12. And unfortunately, with the timing of the pandemic, we were not able to start the formal humanities learning walks K-12 because at that time, the landscape was shifting and it was not able to take place because school was no longer, we were no longer having in-person instruction. Under Standard 2, Management and Operations promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff by ensuring a safe, efficient, and effective learning environment, using resources to implement appropriate curriculum, staffing, and scheduling. Again, as documentation, evidence of practice, school committee documentation for school year 1920, our online resources, our specific committee of the whole, subcommittee meetings, school committee meetings, executive session meetings, where we addressed management and operations, a transparent budget process, which were all individualized committee of the whole meetings focused on budget, FOSS science curriculum implementation, illustrative math curriculum implementation at the middle school levels, CCSR initiatives, all schools being fully functional, all schools being fully staffed, MPS school schedules and calendars. Under Indicator 3, Family, Community, and Engagement, promotes the learning and growth of all students and the success of all staff through effective partnerships with families, community organizations, and other stakeholders that support the mission of the school district. Again, school committee documentation, our blogs, all levels participating in school events, our middle school lottery that, due to the pandemic, took place in an online fashion as opposed to being in person at the library, which is how we did it in school year 2018-19. Medford Family Network events, reaching out to families in the community, participating in the Mayor's Roundtable, which addresses also social emotional wellness, additional CCSR initiatives, West Medford Community Center events, our senior awards nights, etc., which took place, including our high school graduation virtually, but they took place nonetheless to be inclusive of our families. Additionally, under Professional Culture Standard 4, promotes the success for all students by nurturing and sustaining a school culture of reflective practice, high expectations, and continuous learning for staff. Under Professional Culture, we have the math learning walks, the science learning walks, again, using the 5 core actions, our formal back to school welcome for teachers and staff, promoting a professional culture, district professional development days, our school committee retreat days with Dorothy Presser in December of 2019, and always being committed to promoting the Mustang Way and Mustang Pride at all opportunities. So I do wish to say that my core values when I came to Medford, and they still exist, are ACE, achievement for all, collaboration for all, and equity for all. Although this was not the year that we expected it to be, I am proud to be working with such a committed group of individuals who still believe in our students' untapped potential. There is an old expression that rings true for me: out of adversity comes opportunity. The pandemic has changed us all, and the Medford Public Schools have been able to capitalize on these unusual circumstances to strongly improve teaching and learning for all our students. We are making the necessary adjustments in real time to meet the needs of our entire school community. I thank you all in advance for your understanding and support during the second year of leading and learning in the Medford Public Schools. I look forward to our continued collaboration to advance the Medford Public Schools to higher heights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions? Member Rousseau?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Edward Vincent. I appreciated this write-up. I realized that the pandemic sort of threw quite the wrench in the process of completing your goals. I thought the evaluation was fair, and I don't envy you having to try to write this up considering what's been going on this last year. A couple of things. First off, I did want to say that the goal of a focus on instruction, I felt like that's, when I think back on the time that you've been here, if somebody was to just ask me, like, what's the biggest thing that's gone on since you've been here, and it's that focus on instruction has been frankly nonstop, and that I appreciate greatly. I'm sure the students, the teachers, and families do as well. I did want to just, there was one item on standard 2, management and operations. I see that the CCSR initiatives are in there. Actually, they're in a couple places, and I think they belong there. I just want to make sure that, the CCSR, as I understand it, at this moment in time is not in our budget for a single nickel. And I want to just urge us to consider that at budget season, that we consider CCSR important enough that it's evidence of your for your review in 2 places or more. And I think it's appropriate, but I also want to just acknowledge that, if the external funding source vanishes tomorrow, so does the CCSR, unless we think it's important enough to budget. So I'm happy to see that in there. And I just want to urge you to consider seeing whether it needs to be in the budget this year, if that external source for funding will go away or not, which I realize it might be too soon to know that, but I do wonder about the Cummings Foundation and others who provide this funding. The impacts of the pandemic and the economy on them may impact their ability to provide those funds. And I also just, actually, that's all I have for the moment. I'll let other people ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rousseau. Member Kretz.
Hi, thank you. I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Edward Vincent for a very detailed self-evaluation. And, I couldn't be prouder to have her as our superintendent. And I just wanted to let everybody know that. And I didn't know, the question I do have actually is, are we going to be doing our evaluation tonight? I didn't know, I have something ready, but I didn't know if we were doing that tonight or if that's going to be another meeting.
Tonight, you're doing my evaluation tonight. We do,
Okay.
We have not scheduled a school committee, a self-evaluation as of yet. We have not scheduled that yet.
Okay, so I know what we did in the past was each of us prepared, like I got a Word document ready with the same standards that you prepared and did a little write-up and then did a final comment and then a final evaluation. Are we going to just send those to you, or are we going to kind of go around the Zoom and ask, what each of our like, let's say grade was. I know the last time we had it was in person, and we kind of went around the table and everybody just, we went through the standard and everybody just, kind of gave their evaluation grade. I just didn't know how we were doing it this evening. Like I said, I do have, my evaluation ready. I just didn't know how we're sharing it with everybody during this particular Zoom call.
I was thinking it would be probably similar to what you did last time, where everyone kind of gave their feedback or asked specific questions. And then you spoke with one another, like across the table. Even though I was there, it was kind of like I was listening. I kind of just became a silent listener as you, school committee members, had a conversation about the standards. And whatever notes were sent to me, we compiled them, and that's.
Okay. All right. So at this point, should I just give, like, I did an overall comment in my provision, grading. Should I do that at this time, or are we holding off till the end? I just wasn't sure if I should go ahead and do that and then have another committee member go ahead with their questions or comments.
Mayor, point of information, please.
Point of information, Member McLaughlin.
Thank you. So as a new member, there hasn't really been a lot of orientation around this. So I would second Member Kretz's concern or need for some clarification. So what can somebody lay out the process for us explicitly and for those who are on the call, so that we do understand, what the expectations are? Thank you, Superintendent, for this self-evaluation and for the thoroughness of it. I appreciate that. So I'm just wondering sort of if we could lay that out.
Sure. I know Member Van de Kloot, maybe you could speak first, and then Member Graham has her hand up because you've been doing this for some years. Member Van de Kloot.
Yes. The thing is that it's changed a great deal. And I personally don't think that the committee has agreed on the next step. And I think we need to, that's would be the focus of, some uniform way of presenting. So I had thought that the superintendent was going to present to us tonight. I didn't know that the expectation was that we would be giving her feedback in writing tonight, at least, or whatever. So I'd be interested in hearing what Member Graham has to say,
Member Graham?
what her expectations were.
So I actually went and read the document that Kathy sent us back in December. And on page 15, it actually gives like a handy set of like procedural steps and plans, how you approach superintendent evaluation. There should, in any evaluation, like, we should not be verbally shooting from the hip. We should be thoughtful and planful. And I don't think there's enough time in the next 25 minutes to do that myself. But this set of worksheet steps supports what I consider to be good, solid evaluation practices, which is to establish goals, which the prior committee did back in November. And then it does talk about a formative mid-cycle assessment, which I don't recall us doing in that, like, I'll say formal way, but it's not required, although it is recommended. And then the superintendent provides an end of cycle report, which I feel like is what we just heard. Step 5 is that we all receive an evaluation form, and the evaluation form has in it implicit the agreed upon goals, and highlighted any agreed upon indicators, and a copy of the rubric that is attached to this document, so that we all are using level playing field. And then what I think we need to do this evening is talk about the questions that they lay out in step 5, which is who will compile, how will ratings be determined, how will ratings be presented, how will the narrative be composed, and what individual evaluations will be shared. And then, we all have a date by which we have to submit everything to somebody, whoever that somebody is. Somebody creates a composite evaluation, and then we have a meeting where we discuss that step 8 is like final evaluation presented, discussed, and voted in a public meeting. So that's the set of steps that they recommend that ensures our compliance with the open meeting law, which actually has gone to the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts as it relates to superintendent evaluation. And it ensures that we're all sort of using the same measuring sticks and against the same goals. So I don't personally see any reason to veer from this recommended process. But I think we should talk about like what those steps are and when we will complete them.
Thank you. Member McLaughlin, then Member Vanderklut.
Thank you for sharing that information, Member Kretz, from back in September. So it's been a little while. So, and thank you, Member Graham, for reviewing it and sharing it with the rest of us. I'd like to make a motion that we use this document to create a process of evaluation for our superintendent now and moving forward, so that there's a system in place for evaluation and a rubric in place for evaluation for the future, that we have both for posterity and for this current practice. Can I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Member McLaughlin, seconded by Member Vanderklut. Member Graham?
Are you, Member McLaughlin, are you thinking this would go to the Rules, Policy, and Equity Subcommittee to be memorialized as part of our policy handbook?
Ultimately, I would assume that it would need to go to the Rules Subcommittee to be part of the policy handbook. But for now, I would like to see that we're using the guidance that was just shared, that Kathy has shared, that she can share with the rest of us, to have a rubric that we're creating for this purpose. And then subsequent to this purpose, if we want to defer that to the Rules and Policy Subcommittee so that it is memorialized into our policy handbook, I think that that would be very helpful for future school committee members, so that we have an established process in place.
So are you interested in amending your motion to include that?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect.
Oh, so I need to call the roll.
Motion for approval by Member McLaughlin, seconded by Member Vanderklut, as amended by Member Graham. Member Rousseau.
Thank you. I obviously have no problem whatsoever with the motion on the floor, but that won't help us with this evaluation, if I understand it correctly.
So if we want to further clarify the motion on, may I?
Yes, Member McLaughlin.
So if we want to further clarify the motion on the floor, that, you know, we can break it down into specific steps, if that's helpful. Member Rousseau, that we, the motion on the floor is that we are taking the rubric that has been, what is the organization that the document originated? Is it the MASC?
Yes.
Okay, so that we are taking the MASC standards for superintendent evaluation and applying them to this current evaluation, and that we will review that rubric and that information between now and the next meeting, right?
Okay.
And provide written feedback, each member, based on the rubric, and reconvene at that time for the feedback. So then to further the motion, the amendment to the motion, that would be the process, added to the process as well, moving forward as we go, you know, as referred to the policy subcommittee, where, you know, there will be that rubric in place. It will, the superintendent will present on one meeting, and then between that meeting and the subsequent meeting, the school committee members will have the opportunity to evaluate the superintendent's self-evaluation and respond to the rubric. Is that sufficient, Member Rousseau?
It's a lot. I mean, I know it's a lot, and I just feel like, I mean, I'll vote for it because I get the gist of what you're trying to say. I'm just not clear how to know when the subcommittee has actually done the work. The good news is you're on that subcommittee, so we don't have to really hash that out right now. I feel like, but thank you.
But beforehand, if I may, subcommittee will hash it out for the policies and procedures moving forward. But for this, where we're going to review, somebody needs to compile everything before the 22nd of February so we can discuss it as I think you said, compile the ratings and determine the composite of eval at another meeting, which we can do on the 22nd, which would be about a month. Member Graham?
It will take that long for us to provide the feedback, and like more importantly for whoever's compiling this, like it's really tedious to do a good job of compiling information from seven different people into an evaluation that is cohesive and doesn't just sound like 7 different streams of thought about things. So I do think we all need to be quick in our, as quick as reasonable in our own like individual feedback, because then whoever's going to be the compiler of this information, it's a decent amount of work to do it well and to have it come together like a single voice in a way that is going to be meaningful feedback to present.
I agree. Member McLaughlin?
Mayor, as the secretary, I'm willing to do that if my colleagues, are looking for somebody to incorporate the information and create a narrative that is a cohesive narrative that takes into consideration all of the different members with attribution, of course, and their feedback, and pulling together, assuming that the rubric, I have not looked at it, assuming that the rubric is explanatory and certainly conferring with colleagues, although not enough to require an open meeting, but conferring or asking questions if I have to. I'm happy to put something together based on information that is shared, if that's helpful.
Thank you very much, Member McLaughlin. About how much time do you think you need? So if we had it by the 8th to you, would the 22nd be a good time to have another committee of the whole to regroup and discuss? So when just add those
that should be
dates.
fine. If we give ourselves a deadline of the 8th, then we'll have it ready for the, yes, that's fine, Mayor.
Okay. So we can add that to the motion.
So this extremely, I'm supposed to be the one that's recording this motion too right now. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to give this some thought, but to sort of distill it a little bit, yes, I will write some, I'm sorry, guys, this is my first time having to do this and write it up. So I think we get the gist of the motion, but to be explicit, once again, the motion is that a rubric will be created with best practices for evaluation of Superintendent Edouard Vincent, and each of the school committee members will apply that rubric to the self-evaluation that Dr. Edouard Vincent has sent us and give feedback to the secretary by February 8th. And we will respond to the superintendent self-evaluation in a public committee of the whole meeting on September 25th, did you say? I mean, February 25th?
February, our meetings are February 22nd.
22nd, sorry. So that's one part of the motion.
Point of information.
Member Vanderkloot, point of information.
Melanie, I think you said in your first sentence that a rubric will be created, but the rubric already exists.
It's just to create a template for us,
That's
right? Yeah.
Member Graham.
Would you like me to just type something out, Melanie?
Yeah,
Susie might have it already.
I'm sorry.
Or does Susie have it?
Susie, do you have it? Or should we type something out? I don't know if she records them now, if she watches the video after. Susie, Miss Wise? Sorry.
Oh.
Just gotta unmute yourself. Oh, she can't. There you go.
I'm not sure if I have it, but I'm happy to create one from these materials and get it to you all.
I can, so I think, excuse me, Mayor, may I?
Yes, Member McLaughlin, then Member Rousseau.
Yeah, I think that, based on our discussion, if people want me to articulate it more, I want to take a moment for me to write it. I'm fine with doing that. Member Graham, thank you for the offer. I think that we're getting the gist of the motion, but if people really need it spelled out right now, I can certainly take a moment to type it up and hopefully articulate it clearly in this motion. But I can also articulate it again right now that the motion is to create a procedure for evaluation of our superintendent that is a current working procedure for the January 2021 evaluation that will be due on February 22nd, back to the superintendent. And then the addendum to that motion is that after February 22nd, the recommended procedure will be moved to the policy subcommittee for review before being memorialized in our pending policy handbook for 2021, 2022. And I have a second on the floor. Is that sufficient for folks to take a vote, or do you want me to type it up right now for everyone to see? Mayor.
That's good. Thank you very much. Member Rousseau?
Thank you. I was starting to have a flashback. I feel like it was in the movie The Matrix. As I did a search, I realized that I actually took and put the entire rubric into a template for the school committee in June 24th, 2019. And I just shared it in the chat. This is the rubric based on the current evaluation system, which was new for 2019, which is why I took the effort to do that. But we can pull this out and put it into a procedures, of course, when we get to that in the subcommittee, so that it's not just tucked away in my personal Google Docs. But I did share it with the members and actually anybody in the meeting. So if you want to use that for your own submission to Member McLaughlin, that will save her the trouble of figuring out how we all decided to type it up, because this is taken directly from the language of the new evaluation system. Thank you.
And I just put in the chat a written form of what I think we've agreed to.
Thank you, Jenny. You're faster typer than me. I'm like trying to listen, type, thank you for doing that. And thank you, Member Rousseau. And so the rubric, just point of information, Member Rousseau, the rubric that you shared in the Google Docs spreadsheet is from the MASC recommended rubric procedure. Is that accurate?
No, that's from the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. I think that's the law. I don't think that is, I don't think it's the law. I think the law required the board to create this. This rubric is not optional. The superintendent and MASC did not make this up. These are the expected things that we should be evaluating the superintendent on. And it may seem like a crazy list until you look at what was there before. And then you realize this is heaven sent. The one before was pages and pages of questions for which you could never know the answers. So yeah, no, this is, we don't have to create it because I don't think we have the option to create it, but incorporating it into a whole narrative of our procedures for the school committee, I think is key and definitely what we should talk about in the subcommittee.
Yes, and in the interim, Mayor, I will do that for our evaluation due back to the superintendent on February 22nd. So there's a motion on the floor. Thank you, Member Graham. For the purpose of evaluation of the 2019-2020 school year, the committee secretary will compile a template for school committee members to use to provide feedback in compliance with the MASC evaluation process. The committee will respond to the secretary in writing by February 8th. The compiled evaluation will be the subject of a meeting on February 22nd. In addition, the Rules, Policy, and Equity Subcommittee will establish a standing policy and timeline to govern the superintendent evaluation process in subsequent years. And I have a second from Member Kretz.
Correct. Roll call.
Member Graham.
Yes.
Member Kretz.
Yes.
Member McLaughlin, yes. Member Member Mastone.
Yes.
Member Rousseau.
Yes.
Member Van der Kloot.
Yes.
Mayor Longo Kern.
Yeah, yes.
Mayor,
So
7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The motion passes. Member Vanderklut?
notwithstanding all of that and the process, I think that it's only appropriate though, and Kathy made some comments, and I know we don't want to go into large comments, so I'm just going to say this has been an extraordinarily challenging year, and I think that the superintendent has risen to the challenge in an extraordinary way.
Thank you, Member Vanderklut. Member McLaughlin?
I know that we have 10 minutes left of this meeting, and I also just wanted to say to Dr. Edouard Vincent that Medford has been very fortunate to have you this past year, and we've all been through something remarkable together. And certainly, who would have known on a first term that I'd be ending up in a situation with all of you in a global pandemic, but I can't imagine a superintendent that I would rather be in that situation with. So it's been a pleasure getting to know you and seeing you work through some very difficult times. So thank you.
Great. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
By Member McLaughlin, seconded by Member Rousseau. Roll call.
Member Graham,
Yes.
Member Kretz,
Yes.
Member McLaughlin, yes. Member Mastone,
Yes.
Member Rousseau,
Yes.
Member Vanderklut,
Yes.
Mayor Longo Kern.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative. The meeting's adjourned. If we could also, before you log off, the master calendar did not have this link or the 6 p.m. link on the school site. So if somebody could send that link around to us. I'm not able to locate it. I don't know.
Madam Mayor, I just sent it.
Thank you. Okay. We'll see you in
a few
8
minutes.
minutes. Thank you.